It began with popcorn on board the USS Springfield, a retrofitted U.S. Navy destroyer that someone had duct-taped thrusters onto. 6 Marines sat in the mess hall, their boots propped on a table that was older than all of them combined. The room smelled faintly of engine grease, stale coffee, and a suspicious chili recipe that had been in circulation since the 1980s. Corporal Hernandez shook the bag of microwaved popcorn like it was contraband gold. "All right, boys," he said, tossing a kernel into his mouth. "Let's see what Space Netflix has for us today." The holoscreen flickered alive, projecting the galactic broadcast. Normally, it was the same old alien propaganda. The galactic King Valor boasting about his empire's perfection, or a 10-hour symphony composed of whale noises and flashing colors. Half the time, the Marines just muted it and played Die Hard for the millionth time instead. But today was different. The hologram steadied, showing the towering figure of King Valor. He was massive, draped in shimmering purple robes, his crown taller than a man. His face resembled a squid that had taken fashion advice from Elton John. The translation drone buzzed, spitting out English subtitles with all the grace of a drunk Siri. "Bow before my moist empire," it announced. The Marines burst into laughter. "Moist empire?" Hernandez wheezed, nearly choking on popcorn. "Dude, that's nasty." "Shut up, it's starting," Sergeant Kowalski muttered. He leaned forward, his jaw tightening. Behind the king, rows of human women, POWs captured in the last skirmish near Titan, were dragged onto a stage. Their hands were bound, their faces bruised but unbroken. The air in the room shifted. Laughter died. The king raised his scepter, his voice booming. "These weak creatures, these females of Earth, shall be an example. Their defiance insults my glory. Watch, galaxy, as I erase their existence." The translator stuttered, "Observe, space people, as I delete their cookies." No one laughed this time. The Marines sat frozen, their popcorn forgotten as the execution began. Energy blades cut through the women. The king smiled, basking in his own cruelty. The broadcast wasn't censored. It was meant to humiliate, to break human morale. On Earth, billions watched the same feed. Families in living rooms, truckers in diners, students in dorms, all united in horror. The screams cut across continents, and then silence. The king raised his arms. "This is the fate of all who resist my moist glory." The screen cut to black. For a moment, the mess hall was silent. Then Hernandez whispered, "That son of a bitch just John Wicked the entire species." Kowalski stood, fists trembling. "He didn't kill soldiers. He didn't kill warriors. He killed women, POWs, on camera. That's not war. That's a dare," another Marine growled. "He just signed his own death warrant." Across Earth, if the king had expected fear, he got memes. Within minutes, Twitter exploded. Space Karen trended at Mo1. A meme of the king photoshopped into a Starbucks drive-thru. "Your moistness will be $7,999. Someone edited the execution video into a Mortal Kombat fatality, complete with "finish him" audio. But beneath the dark humor was a boiling fury. Soccer moms in Texas started cleaning their shotguns. Russian veterans broke open vodka-stained Cold War bunkers. Teenagers downloaded tutorials on how to hack alien Wi-Fi. Even Switzerland, neutral, cheese-making Switzerland, issued a statement. "We're sharpening the bayonets." Humanity wasn't afraid. Humanity was pissed. The Emergency War Council, New York, United Nations headquarters. The building had seen decades of chaos, shouting diplomats, veto wars, endless debates about who owed what. But tonight was different. Tonight, the world was united. The chamber was filled with generals, presidents, prime ministers, and one very confused Canadian moose mascot someone had dragged in as morale support. The U.S. Admiral, Admiral Rogers, stood up. He had powdered sugar on his uniform from the donut he'd been eating. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice steady, "we've had our Pearl Harbor, our 9/11, our Alderaan. Now it's payback!" The Japanese representative slammed his fist on the table. "We shall fight with the spirit of the samurai," he declared, quoting an anime battle cry that the translator rendered as, "We will defeat them using large fighting vegetables." The British Prime Minister sipped his tea calmly. "About bloody time," he muttered. Every nation agreed. Retaliation wasn't enough. This would be total war. Humanity wouldn't stop until the Galactic King was ash. DARPA unveiled black projects that had been collecting dust, railguns powered by monster energy. A stealth ship built out of Area 51 myths, something labeled only as Project MacGyver. Old NASA engineers cried tears of joy as they watched Saturn V blueprints pulled out of retirement. Russia volunteered its special vodka-fueled rockets with the disclaimer, "They may explode or win war." Both acceptable, the vote was unanimous. For the first time in history, Earth stood as one. Back on the USS Springfield, Kowalski and his squad received their orders. Prep for launch. The ship's engines coughed like an asthmatic lawnmower, but she would fly. Marines jogged through the corridors, strapping on gear. Someone blasted Thunderstruck on the loudspeakers because tradition demanded it. Hernandez stuffed his pockets with extra popcorn. "What?" He shrugged at the glares. "It's for morale." The ship shook as the engines roared to life. In orbit, dozens of vessels joined formation, jury-rigged carriers, old submarines retrofitted with thrusters, even a converted Carnival cruise liner with missile launchers where the hot tubs used to be. For the first time, Earth wasn't hiding in the galactic shadows. It was baring its teeth. Cliffhanger, as the fleet assembled, cameras rolled. Across the galaxy, millions of alien civilians tuned in, expecting humanity to beg for mercy. Instead, they saw Earth's fleet burn brighter than the sun. An old NASA engineer whispered, voice cracking with pride, "The galaxy wanted a show? We're about to give them one hell of a Michael Bay finale." The countdown began. Humanity wasn't going to retaliate. Humanity was going to war. The fleet had barely cleared Earth's orbit when the first opportunity presented itself. A Zorithian patrol ship, sleek, silver, and smug-looking, glided past Mars, its scanners lazily sweeping the void. Inside, alien crewmen chatted in their gargling language, complaining about the assignment. To them, Earth was a primitive mudball. Guard duty here was a punishment, like being posted outside a porta-potty at Woodstock. Their boredom ended abruptly when the USS Springfield decloaked behind them. "Play it," Sergeant Kowalski ordered. From the Springfield speakers erupted AC/DC's Thunderstruck. The opening riff sliced through the vacuum, carried on wide band comms. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't tactical. It was war paint in sound form. The Zorithians panicked. "What is that noise?" one shouted, clutching his ear ridges. "It's a mating call?" Another guessed in terror. "No!" the captain hissed. "It's a battle chant." The Springfield's guns lit up. Railguns belched slugs the size of refrigerators. Missiles screamed from their racks. The Zorithian patrol ship didn't stand a chance. It went from smug to scrap in 30 seconds flat. Inside the Springfield, Hernandez cheered. "Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Somebody call NASA, tell them we just unlocked the God Mode cheat code." Kowalski smirked, checking the radar. "That'll get their attention." And it did. Alien Povon, the Zorithian flagship, Admiral Klix spat out his drink, a bright green sludge that reeked like motor oil. His aides trembled as the news came in. "One of our patrols. Annihilated," a lieutenant stammered. "By who?" The hollow screen flickered, showing grainy footage of humans in battered armor, laughing as they fired. One was even chugging an energy drink mid-battle. They're not following doctrine," another officer said, horrified. "They're improvising." Klix's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "Improvising? In war? Madness!" "Sir, they appear to be enjoying themselves?" The Admiral shivered. A species that fought for fun was not a species you wanted to piss off. Improvised tech-if. There was one thing humanity excelled at. It was turning junk into weapons. In the Springfield's engineering bay, grease-covered mechanics bolted alien plasma cannons onto an old F-16 fighter jet. The jet still had faded Top Gun decals on the side. "Will it work?" a rookie asked nervously. "Son," the chief engineer grunted, welding sparks flying. "If duct tape and WD-40 can't make it work, nothing will." Elsewhere, hackers had infiltrated the alien comm network. Instead of battle orders, Zorithian ships suddenly received Rick Astley. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. An alien commander slammed his claws on the console. What sorcery is this? They call it the Rick Roll, a trembling aide whispered. The commander buried his face in his claws. We are doomed. Mid-battle banter. The next skirmish broke out near Jupiter. Alien carriers swarmed, plasma cannons blazing. The Springfield's crew hunkered down, missiles streaking past the viewport. Inside the bridge, Kowalski barked orders. Target the engines! Hernandez, stop eating popcorn and get on the gun! I shoot better when I snack. Hernandez yelled, shoving a handful in his mouth and hammering the trigger. The gun roared, blasting holes in the alien hull. Meanwhile, two Marines debated over the comms. Die Hard is the greatest action movie ever made. Hell no, Terminator 2 beats it easy. Bro, Die Hard had Alan Rickman falling off a building. That's cinema! Arnold said, hasta la vista, baby. Argument over. Their squad leader groaned. We're literally fighting for Earth's survival and you clowns are debating movies? Hey, multitasking, came the reply. Even in the middle of war, humans couldn't resist arguing about pop culture. Alien confusion on board an enemy frigate. A Zorithian soldier watched in horror as human fighters performed kamikaze maneuvers with precision. They're not following any pattern, he cried. They zig, they zag, they moonwalk. On his screen, one human pilot had deliberately spun his ship to look like Michael Jackson mid-dodge, blasting lasers to the beat. The alien captain's voice cracked. Are they dancing? Yes, sir. And winning? Yes, sir. The captain fainted. Turning point, the climax of the second battle came when humans hacked into the Zorithian carrier's power core. Instead of self-destructing, the system began broadcasting every embarrassing video from the King's archives. Across the galaxy, civilians watched as their supreme ruler sang off-key karaoke, cried during Bambi, and tripped over his robe during a royal parade. Majesty, his aide whispered. They have memes of you, the king roared in rage. Shut it down. Shut it all down! But it was too late. Humanity had weaponized humiliation. First victory. As the carrier exploded, cheers erupted across the Springfield. Marines hugged, high-fived, and one guy started shotgunning a beer. The explosion was broadcast live to every corner of the galaxy. Billions of aliens stared in disbelief as a lone human pilot ejected at the last second, flipping the middle finger to the camera. The transmission cut out with static. The galaxy had its answer. Humans weren't just dangerous. They were unhinged. Cliffhanger back on Earth, Admiral Rogers addressed the planet. Tonight, humanity won its first victory. But this is only the beginning. The king wanted to scare us. Instead, he woke the one species that eats chaos for breakfast, the feed cut. Somewhere, in the depths of space, the galactic king slammed his fist. His empire had never faced such humiliation. But Earth? Earth was just getting warmed up. The galaxy had seen wars before. Empires had risen and fallen, planets burned, fleets shattered. But no one had ever witnessed what humanity unleashed next. Because humans weren't just waging war. They were throwing a party with explosions. The final assault, the throne world of the galactic king, Vaylor Prime, was a jewel of the cosmos. Floating spires gleamed like crystal, defense rings bristled with plasma turrets, and fleets hovered in disciplined formation. It had never fallen, until tonight. The human armada tore into orbit like an angry metal storm. Retrofitted carriers, duct-tape destroyers, jury-rigged shuttles, even the Carnival cruise ship Liberty of the Seas, now armed with nuclear torpedoes, joined the formation. On the USS Springfield, Sergeant Kowalski stood before his Marines. Men, women, degenerates of all ages, this is it. The king who thought he could scare humanity is about to find out we don't do fear. We do payback. Loud, messy American payback. Hernandez pumped his fist. Let's turn this moist bastard into space salsa. The comms crackled. Admiral Rogers' voice rang out across the fleet. Gentlemen, today is our Independence Day. Every ship roared with cheers. AC/DC blared across frequencies, mixing with Eye of the Tiger and, inexplicably, the Pokémon theme song. The humans charged. The Battle of the Capitol. The first wave slammed into the defense ring. Plasma cannons shredded the void, carving glowing scars across human hulls. But the Springfield dove through the firestorm like a drunk linebacker. "Roombas, go!" Hernandez shouted. Hundreds of modified Roombas, duct-taped with grenades, launched into space. They whirred menacingly as they latched onto turrets, detonating in a storm of sparks. On the alien comms, terrified voices rang out. "They've weaponized cleaning machines!" The second wave followed. Human fighters dog-fought with alien interceptors, weaving between the spires of the capital city. One pilot painted his ship bright pink with the words, "Barbie's Dream Death Machine." The aliens never recovered from the psychological shock. Down below, Marines stormed the palace streets. Plasma bolts lit the night as squads advanced. Kowalski led the charge, shotgun in one hand, cigar clenched in his teeth. Hernandez jogged behind him, lugging a popcorn machine on his back. "What?" he yelled over the gunfire. "Snacks are morale boosters." Alien civilians peeked from windows as humans fought, confused by the mix of brutality and sheer absurdity. They saw Marines crack jokes mid-battle, heard them argue about 90s sitcoms while dodging plasma fire, and watched them graffiti free Wi-Fi on palace walls. For the first time, they wondered, maybe the humans weren't conquerors. Maybe they were a natural disaster, one you survived by laughing with them. Inside the palace, the throne room was a cathedral of arrogance, ceilings high enough to fly a shuttle through. Walls of gold, statues of the king everywhere. At the far end, King Valor stood, robes flowing, crown gleaming. His voice echoed as he raised his scepter. "Pathetic humans, you dare bring your filth into my sacred hall?" "Filth?" Hernandez muttered, popping a kernel into his mouth. "Bro, you literally live in a place that smells like Axe body spray and squid." The king's eyes bulged. "I am eternal. I am glory incarnate. I am—" "A moist towel," Kowalski interrupted, racking his shotgun. The king howled, unleashing energy blasts that scorched the marble floor. Marines scattered, returning fire. The throne room became a storm of explosions and plasma beams. The showdown Kowalski ducked behind a shattered pillar, panting. "All right, plan? Shoot him until he stops moving?" Hernandez suggested. Classic. "Let's do it." They surged forward. Plasma seared past, one bolt catching Hernandez's popcorn machine, sending kernels flying like confetti. The smell of scorched butter filled the air. "No!" Hernandez wailed. "My popcorn." "Focus!" Kowalski barked. The king's laugh echoed. "You cannot defeat me. I am destiny itself." "Funny," Kowalski said, stepping from cover, eyes blazing. Destiny forgot to factor in Marines. He unloaded his shotgun. The blast knocked the king backward, crown flying. The monarch roared, staggering to his feet. He raised his scepter for one final strike, only to slip on a Coca-Cola can rolling across the floor. He fell with a wet splat, impaling himself on his own scepter. Silence. Then Hernandez blinked. "Wait, did he just trip on a Coke can?" The Marines stared. Then they burst out laughing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kowalski declared, tossing the empty can aside. "The king is dead. Long live carbonated beverages." Aftermath word spread instantly. The invincible king of the galaxy was dead. Killed not by a superweapon, not by a master assassin, but by a soda can. Across the empire, riots turned to celebrations. Colonies toppled statues, replacing them with crude drawings of Coke cans wearing crowns. On Valor Prime, Marines set up massive grills in the palace courtyard. BBQ smoke filled the air as humans shared food with bewildered aliens. A Texan colonel proudly roasted an entire six-legged beast, serving it with potato salad. The first galactic peace treaty was signed not in a council chamber, but at a picnic table. The ink smeared because someone spilled barbecue sauce on it. Satirical epilogue human accountants from New Jersey were put in charge of rebuilding the empire. Aliens quickly learned that taxes were scarier than plasma rifles. Meanwhile, pitmasters from Texas handled morale management, which basically meant brisket diplomacy. The galaxy adapted surprisingly fast. Karaoke nights became mandatory cultural exchange. Alien civilians learned the art of sarcasm. And in some corners, Florida Man became a bogeyman legend whispered to children at night. The official galactic history recorded the war simply, humanity fought not for conquest, not for glory, but because someone interrupted their snack time. Thus, the galaxy learned, never provoke Earth during popcorn hour. Final scene, on the Springfield. Kowalski lit a fresh cigar, gazing out the viewport at the liberated stars. Hernandez crunched popcorn, smiling. So, what now, Sarge? Kowalski exhaled smoke. Now? We go home, he smirked. Or maybe Vegas. Heard they just opened a casino on Mars. The Marines laughed, and across the galaxy, alien historians shuddered, because they knew if humanity had done all this over a handful of POWs, what would they do if someone really pissed them off? The screen faded to black, roll credits, with AC/DC, obviously. The Galactic King had expected fear. What he got instead was chaos. Alien news broadcasts lit up with footage of humans dancing on destroyed carriers, drinking beer while reloading rifles, and spray painting Earth's flag on anything that didn't move fast enough. Whole worlds watched in horror as the species from a primitive dirtball began steamrolling battle fleets that had ruled the stars for centuries. And they weren't just winning, they were laughing while doing it. The royal court in panic in the glittering throne room of Vaylor's palace. Advisors scrambled like cockroaches under a flashlight. Majesty, their fleets are spreading faster than we can respond. One alien squeaked, dropping a stack of holo reports. They've taken 3 colonies in a week. Another wailed. The king slammed his scepter, voice booming. Impossible! They are savages. They cannot match our advanced weapons. An aide trembled. Majesty, they don't match our weapons. They steal them, duct tape them to their own ships, and make them worse. Worse? They call it customization. The king's crown slid slightly down his slimy forehead. He clutched it, pale. What manner of lunatics have we provoked? The human way of occupation. When humans took their first alien planet, the galaxy expected brutal martial law. Instead, they got tailgate parties. Within hours of the invasion, Marines set up grills in the streets, cooking burgers for both humans and confused alien civilians. Children were given popsicles. Alien musicians were drafted into karaoke nights. One alien family blinked in shock as a soldier spray-painted their house. Is that vandalism? The father whispered. No, sir, the Marine replied cheerfully. That's free Wi-Fi. Passwords Freedom Rock 69. Even conquered populations admitted, begrudgingly, that humans were oddly. Fun overlords, culture clashes, of course, cultural misunderstandings ran rampant. On one occupied world, humans introduced Florida Man stories to the locals. The aliens at first thought these were war legends. When told they were true, they panicked. If one man from Florida can do this, what happens if they all come? In another sector, Marines set up beer pong tournaments. Zorithians joined in, failing miserably since their tentacles couldn't throw straight. The losers were forced to wear Kiss the Cook aprons for a week. A captured alien diplomat was brought to Earth. He returned obsessed with Friends reruns, convinced Chandler Bing was a war deity. Could humanity be any more terrifying? He muttered constantly. One alien princess meant to negotiate peace instead got addicted to late-night infomercials. She ordered 3 sets of ShamWows and a George Foreman grill. Weaponized humor, the psychological war was even worse. Captured Zorithian generals were subjected to a form of enhanced interrogation unknown in the galaxy. They were forced to sit in a room where Barney the dinosaur played on loop, 24/7. The first general lasted 6 hours before begging for mercy. Another cracked in 2 days, sobbing, I love you, you love me. Please make it stop! The Marines high-fived. Operation Purple Menace, successful. Alien academics. Try to understand and while. Alien scholars scrambled to make sense of humanity. They are a paradox, Professor Hrazan of the Galactic Academy declared. They cry over puppies, yet laugh while detonating explosives. They worship something called a Chuck Norris, but also fear clowns. Their culture is a labyrinth of madness, another scholar interjected nervously. They also made an entire weapon system based on a toy from their childhood. They call it a Nerf gun. Only theirs fires tungsten rods at Mach 10. The assembly broke into panic. The tipping point came when humans captured a galactic broadcasting station. Instead of propaganda, aliens across the Empire tuned in to see a giant neon sign. Live from Earth, the roast of King Valor. On screen, human comedians in combat armor mocked the king mercilessly. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for King Valor. The only guy who thinks killing prisoners is good PR. Laughter erupted. Even some aliens couldn't help chuckling nervously. Another joke landed. Moist Empire? Bro, you sound like a towel commercial. The king, watching from his throne, nearly swallowed his crown in rage. They're making fun of me? He shrieked. His advisors trembled. Majesty, it's spreading. The jokes? They are unstoppable. Domino effect, the roast went viral. Alien teenagers began sharing memes mocking the king's moist empire. Graffiti appeared on palace walls. Bow to Moist Boy. Entire colonies rioted, not against humans, but against their own rulers, furious they'd provoked such a nightmare species. The king ordered executions to reassert control, but even as prisoners were dragged away, they shouted, "Earth is coming for you, Moist Boy!" The soldiers hesitated. Even they began snickering. Humanity's expansion. By now, human fleets weren't just fighting, they were winning everywhere. On one battlefield, a Texan colonel rode into combat on a hover tank, waving both a shotgun and a barbecue fork. "Remember the Alamo, but in space!" he hollered. His alien opponents screamed, "What is an Alamo?" right before their lines collapsed. On another world, hackers hijacked city billboards to play Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Aliens assumed it was a religious text. Within days, a cult of excellent ones formed, preaching that the galaxy must party on, dudes. Human chaos wasn't just winning battles. It was reshaping culture. Cliffhanger, the final straw came when human marines stormed a royal archive and leaked a hologram of the king practicing interpretive dance. It spread faster than light. The caption read, "This is your ruler. We roast marshmallows tougher than him." Across the galaxy, laughter rang out. The king's empire trembled, because if there was one truth aliens finally understood, it was this. Humans were not conquerors. Humans were chaos incarnate, and chaos was contagious.